Hi, friends, and welcome to 15241 Today Talk. Jim Render and I are honored to have with us for the program today the head basketball coach at Upper St. Clair High School, Pete Serio. And congratulations to both the boys and girls basketball teams at Upper St. Clair. Pete, congratulations on a 15-3 season. Give us a capsule, or if you would, give us a summary of the kind of year it was for you.
Thank you, Lanny. It was a special year as far as I'm concerned, because yes, we're young. People were expecting us to do pretty well, and then the season starts out and we don't have two of our best players. Mia Brown and Ava Keating, both got you might as well say season-ending injuries. Ava did end up coming back for the last 2 games, but wasn't herself yet, and I didn't know what to expect, and these kids just really stepped up. You know, in sports they say when you're given an opportunity, you got to go seize it. And some of these girls really did seize their opportunity. And it was just special for me to see. And the other thing that I thought made us have such a successful season was our chemistry. This is one of the most, this team gets along better than anybody I've ever coached. I'm going to say that. And I think that's one of the reasons we've done so well. They genuinely root for each other. They genuinely get along. There's no jealousy. There was no jealousy this year whatsoever. And to me, I mean, that's what I'm going to look back. When I look back on this season, it's the opportunity that some of these kids took advantage of and how well they got along. And that's why we were successful.
Let me ask you to march us through the playoffs. First game. Quarterfinals, you beat Pine Richland 63-39.
That was a tougher game than the score indicated. It was close for a good part of the game. I thought our girls came out really tight. I thought they were afraid to lose, or what I said during that game was stop being afraid to win, because they were playing tight, and I hadn't seen them play like that all year. And granted, these kids, some of them never got to play in the playoff game the year before, and now they were counted on, and it was just a different kind of experience for them. And that was a big game for our confidence. Getting through those jitters in that first quarter and then being able to survive and get through that game and win it really was a boost for their confidence.
And then the semifinal game, it must have been quite a game against Norwin, 33-31.
Norwin was pretty physical with us, and they run a fabulous sideline break that we had worked on. But then they came out and they did some different things that we hadn't seen on film at all. They really denied us post-entry, because the previous year we knocked out Norwin in the quarterfinals, and they were the 3 seed, and we were the 10 seed maybe, I can't remember at this point. And we had upset them. And Kate Robbins ended up having 30 points and 20 rebounds as a freshman in that playoff game. And he wasn't going to let that happen again when we played them this year. So he did a really nice job. Instead of trying to converge on Kate, which he didn't have the size to do, he really pressured the guards, so they had a really difficult time to get the ball into the post. And he did a great job doing that. And he kind of neutralized Kate for the most part. And the score was 33-31. It was a really defensive struggle for both teams. But beating Norwin was a really good team. Norwin gave Trinity their only loss during the regular season. Norwin only lost to NA by 6. Second time they played them. The first time they only lost by 11, and they were in that game the whole time. Norwin is just a really experienced, well-coached, physical team. And I thought that was a huge win for us again. We beat a team that maybe some people didn't think we could, but it was a struggle. It was a defensive struggle, and at one point or another during that game, every kid did something that had helped us win. They came through with one basket or whatever, but it was a really good win.
Two-part question about the championship game. You lost to North Allegheny, and then you were not permitted to go into the state championships. Just one team from?
Just one team, which ended up being 12 teams in the state. And then they had some, not playing games, but they had first-round games that, for instance, like North Allegheny and St. Clair boys, they didn't have to play that first-round game. And then you only end up with 8 teams, so two wins get you to the States. But you know what, during COVID, Lanny, I'll be honest with you, I was thrilled that we had a season. I was thrilled that we got to have the playoffs happen. So I never went into it thinking, well, we're getting ripped off because we don't get to go to state. We made it to the final. We were just really appreciative to have a season and get to play in the WPIL playoffs. And I don't know if Coach will agree with this, but around here, that WPIL crown seems to always be a little bit more important than that state crown. But so.
Would you agree with that?
Yes and no. It is a big deal. There's no question about it. After I won a state championship, I was introduced to somebody in Florida. And the guy that introduced me said, Jim won the Pennsylvania State Championship. And the guy I was introduced to said, really? In other words, around the country, they do not know who the WPIAL is, even though we know it's so vital and very important. But when you say you won a state championship, that attracts attention. Yeah. And I've gone back and forth, to be honest. You know, a couple of years ago, I thought if they're going to let those big parochial schools over east recruit, like that Philadelphia St. Joe recruits 3 states. There's key players from New Jersey. And I thought, well, why do this? If there's 2 sets of rules, you know, maybe we should go. And I went back to my WPIL thing, you know. Maybe we ought to just knock it off after the WPIL because we're playing under 2 sets of rules. And it would be nice here in Upper St. Clair if I could go recruit.
Right.
50 miles around here.
How long ago was, am I remembering this correctly? How long ago was it that did we not participate in the state tournament at one point or another?
The first state tournament in football was 1988, and we won the WPIL championship. In those days, however, the first year, a lot of schools in Western Pennsylvania didn't think the state would pull it off. But you had to tell the state in September whether you were going to enter their tournament. And our school board said, no, we're not going to enter your tournament. So here we win the doggone thing in November. We beat Pittsburgh Central Catholic at Three River Stadium, and they go on and win the state championship. And then our school board changed their mind and let us go in 1989. And my point is, we could have won the first 2.
Oh, wow.
And
I do remember that.
But they played that state championship game in '88 in Penn State's Beaver Stadium, and it was about 10 degrees, and there was about 100 people at the game. So that would have been a nice memory.
Yeah, I'm sure.
One of the 100.
Pete, this past year it was your 7th year as head coach at Upper St. Clair, and I know you've coached Peters Township, Mount Lebanon, Bishop Canevin. When you took over the program, and you look at it now 7 years down the road, is the program where you want it to be?
It is now. We struggled at times during my first 5 years. We've done sometimes you win when you get better players. And this past 2 years, I knew this class that was coming up, this sophomore class right now, when they were in 5th and 6th grade, and I had them over at Boyce, I knew they were going to be something special, and I was really looking forward to getting to coach them. And I just think that, when you get better players, you become a better coach. And I think that's what happened. And again, yes, my sophomore class is fabulous, and we got some good players in every other class. And the 8th grade class coming up is supposed to be pretty good also. But you become a better coach when you have better players.
There's no question about that. No question. I was coach of the year in 1989. However, Doug Whaley was the player of the year in 1989. I mean, coaches don't win those type things without the players.
I will say this though. I'm the kind of coach that, although someone might argue with me that, well, Pete, you did the best you could. In those first 5 years, I always struggled with what could I have done better? What could I have done differently that could have made things a little more successful than they were in the beginning? So I always looked at it like that. When we lose, I'm not one of the guys that wants to blame the kids. I mean, because they're kids. To me, they're kids. They're going to make mistakes. They're 15 years old, 16 years old. They're just going to make mistakes. And some of them, you might not have a Division I kid. So you can't expect this kid to be a Division I player when they don't have the talent to be that Division I player. So I kind of look at it like that. Sometimes, yes, we push them and we want them to be better, but there comes a point where you can't expect them to dunk. I'm just using that as an analogy. If they can't jump high enough to dunk. So I always wanted to see what I could do to make them better. And I think sometimes I did okay, and sometimes I look back and wish I would have done things a little differently.
How much of an advantage is it to teach in the school in which you are coaching?
It's an advantage and a disadvantage. The advantage being is I get to know the girls before they get to the high school. I get to see them how they interact with each other, if they're very competitive, if they're not competitive, especially in PE class. But then the disadvantages become, maybe I had a good relationship with them when they were in 5th and 6th grade, and we got along really well, and we talked a lot, and it was fun. And then they get to high school and they're on my team, and now I'm not playing them as much as they think they should play. And then, so now the situation deteriorates because it went from good to bad instead of from indifferent to whatever it might be.
Pete Serio, let me see if I say this right. Pete Serio is a part of the McConnell family, or is it the McConnell family that's part of the Serio family?
No one's ever said it that way, so we'll just go with what everybody says.
And Pete's wife, Susie, coaches with you. How exciting is that? How much of a great opportunity is that for the two of you to work together?
It's pretty special. I was Susie's assistant at Oakland Catholic back in the 80s. And I got...
Were you married?
Yes. Okay. I got a taste of what it was like to coach with her. She was the head coach. I was the assistant coach. And now that's kind of flip-flopped. But to be honest with you, I'm not going to lie to anybody. Okay, I'm not. And I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke and tell people that, I'm the head coach in name, and we do things together. And I'm not going to be naive or egotistical enough to sit here and tell you that I don't let her be her, because that's what's best for the kids. And when Susie and I first got together, and do you want me to help you? Are you sure? And I knew what people were going to say. I knew it. And coach, I always went back to what Dr. Pope had said to me when I first got hired as a teacher. He said, whenever you have a decision to be made, the only question you want to ask yourself is what's best for the kids. So having those kids exposed to her basketball mind is what's best for those kids. And that's how I look at it. We get along, and she's throwing suggestions out at me all the time. But at the end of the day, if things don't go right, it's going to come back at me. But to answer your question, it's been special. I love it. She's really good at what she does. And I'm thrilled for the girls around here that they get exposed to that basketball mind. And we work really well together, and she doesn't step on my toes when the decision needs to be made, or when I just make a call, or whatever you want to say. But
since you're being so candid, is it better for a girls' basketball team to be coached by a woman?
I don't know if by the right person, sure. I don't think you say just
It's
because
not a gender question then.
No, to me it's not, because Gino Ariemo is a fabulous coach, and those girls love him that play for him at Connecticut, and you shouldn't punish him because he's a guy. The only thing I will say is that you should always have a female on your staff, because there are situations that arise that a woman is better off handling, and the girls sometimes just would rather talk to a female sometimes. But having Susie on the staff is more about, maybe about you have a strong woman who's gone after everything full force and has been so successful. But it's also about seeing someone who is successful and saying to yourself, well, why can't I be that successful? I'm only 5'3", or I'm only 5'4", so why can't I work hard? Whether it's in basketball or whatever part of life you want to talk about, working, your job, college, or your relationships. I just think it's a great role model. So it's a great example.
His answers are fantastic, I think.
Oh, no question about it.
And I enjoyed your comments about how you evaluate yourself after a season or after a game. I was the same way.
I don't know. I just think blaming the kids is just an excuse. It's not going to make your team better. It's not going to make you a better coach. I really, honest to God, I never blame the kids. And when we win, I know this sounds like coach speak, but when we win, I don't really need to take credit for it. I mean, we're winning because I got better players. That's why. And they're buying into everything. If you got kids that buy into what you're trying to teach, and they're really buying into the team concept, and they don't care about whether they score 20 or 15, you're going to be successful. And if their parents need to help too, because Coach, as you know, you get them for 2 hours a day, but they're at home for all those other hours a day. And if their parents are saying, hey, you guys are winning, it's great, let's keep it up. You're playing hard, just play hard. If they're hearing that at home, then you're also going to be more successful. Your chances are so much better. But if they're hearing, well, you got to shoot more, or you're not getting enough minutes, or why is he taking you out? And that just plays on the kid's mind. And eventually, that's how they start to think. So.
You were talking earlier about the chemistry of the team. What generates that, or what is the genesis of that? Is it the right couple of girls step up as leaders?
I think we got kind of lucky here with this sophomore class I had. Those 6 players, but they really had never lost a game in 7th and 8th grade, I don't think. And they just loved playing with each other. And then when they came up, it just so happened that they ended up being the best kids on the team. So although the transition was very difficult, and I'm not going to lie, it was very difficult, playing them was the right thing for me to do. I remember asking Matt Mellinger when he was the AD about building a program. I said, what does Coach Render do? I remember this conversation about what does Coach Render do to build the program? How do you build a program? And he told me that you told him that the way to build a successful program was if you get in a situation where your younger kid and your older kid are the same talent, you play the younger kid because your program will end up being better in the long run. And I tried to remember that last year. It was not easy for me to do what I did last year. It was really difficult. And but I had to say to myself, this job comes with tough decisions sometimes, and people aren't going to like you. But what is the best decision for this program and these kids? And the best decision was to play the younger kids, and they get along really well, really well.
Well, Jim, what drives that?
What drives?
Yeah, what drives the fact that philosophy?
I've never been a big believer that a senior is entitled.
Perfect word.
And a lot of times, activities up there, I remember they used to call it the senior homecoming, and the guy announced the graduation year, not the year of the fall homecoming, And to back that up a little bit, when Mac McCardle, you remember Mac McCardle, quarterback? He was our quarterback as a freshman.
A lefty, right? Was he left-handed?
No.
Okay.
But anyhow, I remember having a conversation with Dr. Parnell Hoffman, the principal, and I said, what do you think about playing a freshman? And he said to me, a freshman is enrolled in this high school, just as the sophomores and the juniors and the seniors. If the freshman is the best, he should play. And I thought that, it was what I already believed, but it was nice to be reinforced, by the.
What message does that send when you tell the students, if you do, that seniors aren't? It's not a case of entitlement.
It can divide the team because there's jealousy involved now. I would say that genuinely kids know if someone's better than them, but they still feel entitled. It's their turn. Maybe it's something that I had done in the past was play the seniors. And that's more because there wasn't anyone better than them that was younger than them. And this past, or 2 years ago, that class was just a really good class. This all falls back on you asking me about chemistry, and we went off on that. But yeah, that sophomore class gets along as good as anybody.
And sometimes you do want to give a senior a favor or a nudge,
Absolutely.
They maybe have put in 4 years of hard work, but they clearly have to be better if they're going to start, in my opinion.
No, that's the correct opinion. It's just not the popular opinion.
Something else you were talking about, about the teaching aspect, and the guy that was my mentor used to say to me, and all of us young coaches, if they don't know it, you haven't taught it to them. Never blame the kid. And he cited a couple examples where he taught a running back all the plays from all the different running back positions. And then he'd say, and the English teacher told me he couldn't learn. The point, again, was he always felt if they don't know it, you haven't taught it to them. Never blame the kid. And that was a big part of my philosophy when I was coaching,
Right.
Find a way.
Exactly. Find a way. That's your job, right? It's
Yeah.
our job. Find a way.
I am having all of this wisdom from you guys infused into my being because I teach at Waynesburg University, and a lot of this advice is I'm finding very valuable to my teaching skills. I learned once, Pete, one of my favorite quotes about teaching is that students don't care what a professor knows until they know that a professor cares.
I would totally agree with that in my teaching position at Boyce and coaching. Because sometimes you can't, I teach 650 kids over at Boyce. Coach had whatever at the high school when he was teaching. And you're not going to reach them all. You're not going to have a perfect relationship with all of them, but you sure can make a difference in a couple kids' lives, because sometimes they don't have a lot of people that care about them. And if you can genuinely show them that you care, sure, you're going to get more out of that kid. Same with coaching. If they know, and I hope my kids know how much I care about them, I try to let them know constantly. And we'll have conversations that don't have anything to do with basketball. I do my best to do that because I think that's important, because I want to coach hard, but if I expect them to play hard, they'll always play harder for someone that they believe cares about them than they would if I didn't care. So, but I agree, Lanny, 100%.
All right, let's talk about your family. You have a son and 3 daughters, and as we were talking earlier, all 4 of your children have something to do with the medical profession. Tell us about your kids.
As a father, I am just awful proud, especially during the pandemic part. My kids were all going to work, and everybody else was home last March and April, and my kids were going to work. So I have a son who's my oldest. He's 30. He is a pharmacist, so he started it. And then I have 3 girls that are 26, 25, and 24. And Jordan is doing her residency at Children's Hospital in Philadelphia as a clinical pharmacist. And I have my middle daughter, Mandy, is a OR nurse at Presby downtown. And my youngest, Madison, is a NICU nurse at Children's Hospital and ours here in Pittsburgh.
Wait a minute, I thought the McConnell's Serio DNA was basketball. What has led to the 4 of them going into medicine?
They always were taught to just be successful whatever you do and work really hard. And to be honest, they worked really hard on their grades and in their school and in schoolwork, and they wanted to be in the medical field and help people. And I feel like we're lucky. We're lucky that they did what they are doing what they are doing, which is being in the medical field and hopefully helping people when they can.
Any of the 4 play basketball in high school?
They all play basketball in high school, and Madison and Jordan played a year for their mother at Pitt. They were walk-ons for a year, but it was too much time taken away from studies and everything for just being a walk-on. So they enjoyed that year with their mom, but they decided they just wanted to be a regular student and hang out.
That's why they're a little smarter than us coaches.
When the McConnells and Serios get together, is the conversation always about basketball?
I'm trying to give you a percentage on that because it's probably higher than you think. It's obviously not 100%, but 8 out of 10 times, yes, it's going to be about basketball.
Discussing philosophy, discussing...
I think we discuss everything. Sometimes during the season, we do exchange a lot of ideas, plays, what we're running, what drills you're using. If we need help scouting another team that one of us may have played. So during the season, it's more X and O's and all that stuff. But then on the off season, it's more about what you got coming back. What are you going to do? You having a camp? So it's still a lot of basketball talk. And then we talk about TJ a lot during the NBA season because he'll play every other night. So it always gives you something to talk about when we're not playing.
You're talking about Timmy's son?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
He's been phenomenal.
He has been. Coach, he always plays above himself. And
Did you hear about his record stealing the ball?
9 steals and a half was an NBA record. No one had ever done that before. And no one had ever had a triple-double with steals coming off the bench. So he had set 2 records that night. But he had his son. He had a son in January. And I just think his level has always been way up there, but somehow he has taken it to a different level. It's been so much fun to watch. So much fun. That's my godson too, Lanny, Coach. That's my godson. So yes, it is.
Congratulations.
So
Upper St. Clair girls, 21-22. What's it look like?
Okay, let's get healthy, and then I'll let people talk. They can say whatever they want because yes, it's time to put up. So we've set the bar, right? We set the bar to make it to the Whitfield Championship. So the bar has to be winning the Whitfield Championship. So I'm not gonna lie. I mean that's what it should be, right? That's what it should be. I got these kids coming back, and hopefully I'll get my 2 kids that were unhealthy. Let's get them healthy. And let's see what we can do. And let's hope the chemistry remains the same as we get those 2 back. Plus, we have some influx of pretty talented kids coming up from 8th grade. So if I'm able to mesh all that together, then yeah, I expect us to be there at the end of the year. But that's going to be our
Any chance
biggest challenge.
Katie Robbins can dunk the ball in a couple years?
I would hope so. Her mother told me that she really didn't get coordinated until she got to college. So if the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and if you go by looks, it sure does not look like it falls far from the tree. We'll see. I don't know. That's a tough thing to do.
I know it is.
It's a tough thing to do.
It was a dumb question, but
no, it wasn't. But that kid works really hard, really hard, really hard. I'm sure she's like her mom and her dad. So,
Pete Serio, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us today. I hope indeed you and your girls are basking in the glow of a tremendous season. and you're a great coach. Thanks for joining us, Pete.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
It'll be nice if we have you back next year with the WPIL trophy sitting there beside
That's.
you.
I hope so. I
Good
hope
luck.
so. There's no predictions coming out of my mouth.
I don't
hope
mean
so.
to add any pressure here.
No, hey, I've heard it for the last 2 weeks.
I know.
I've heard it that's all I've heard for the last 2 weeks. Oh, but you got everybody coming back. You got everybody coming back.
That's the price you pay.
Yeah.
Pete Serio, Upper St. Clair teacher and the head coach of the girls' Upper St. Clair basketball team. Linda Dudzinski is our coordinating producer. Glenn Ward is our director and producer. Thank you very much for joining us for our show 15241 Today Talk.